4 years from now, you'll stop being able to remember what your own last name sounds like out loud. Right now, you have no idea that's coming. You're 23, splitting a 2-bedroom apartment with your best friend Jess, working the overnight stocking shift at a discount grocery store 4 nights a week, and folding shirts at a mall store the other 3. It still isn't enough. Rent is $1,140. Your half is $570. Your checking account says $84. And rent is due in 6 days. You've gotten good at the math you do lying awake. What's left after rent? After the phone bill? After the minimum payment on a credit card you opened your first semester of community college and never fully climbed out from under? There's never anything left. There's usually a gap. At work, a coworker mentions an old classmate from your graduating class. Someone you half remember, a name more than a face, who just posted vacation photos from somewhere with turquoise water. She does OnlyFans now, the coworker says, not quite looking at you, testing how you'll react. Makes more in a weekend than we make in a month here. Someone else laughs, a short, ugly sound. That's a last resort thing, the shift manager says, like it settles something. You laugh along, because that's the safe thing to do in front of your manager. You clock out at 11 p.m., and on the walk home, you don't think about it. You tell yourself you don't think about it. That night, on the mattress on the floor of your room, you open your banking app one more time like the number might have changed since dinner. It hasn't. You close it. You open a different app instead, one you'd typed into a search bar and closed out of twice already this month, too embarrassed to finish signing up. This time you finish it. A username that isn't your name. No photo yet, just a blank gray circle where a face should be. You stare at the empty profile for a long time, thumb hovering over the upload button, and then you close the app without posting anything at all. You don't tell Jess. You don't tell anyone. It isn't a decision yet. It's just an account sitting quietly on your phone, the way the $40 sat quietly in an app for someone else, in a different story, in a different life you've never heard of, waiting for you to decide whether tonight was nothing or the first small thing. 2 weeks pass before you post anything at all. When you finally do, it's careful to the point of paranoia, filmed from behind, or with your face angled out of frame, or wearing a plain mask you ordered online and paid for in cash from a gift card so it wouldn't show up on a bank statement. The first week, you make $12. The second week, $34. You check the app the way you used to check the lottery numbers you never bought, constantly, compulsively, expecting nothing and getting nothing, and checking again anyway. You are still working both jobs. You edit clips at 2 a.m. after closing the grocery store, hunched over your laptop at the kitchen table so you don't wake Jess, learning by trial and error what the algorithm rewards and what it buries, what a caption needs to say to get someone to stop scrolling. Nobody teaches you this. You piece it together from forums where everyone uses a fake name, same as you. A message comes in from a subscriber that's oddly kind, asks about your day, seems to actually want an answer. You don't know what to do with that, so you answer honestly, and something about being seen and unseen at the same time feels stranger than you expected. The next message from someone else is not kind at all. You learn to block within the first 10 seconds of reading. You learn this fast because you have to. You delete the app twice in this stretch, in moments of pure shame, usually right after your mother calls to ask how work is going, and you say, "Fine," and hang up feeling like you lied about something bigger than you did. Both times, you reinstall it within a few days. Not because you've made peace with it, because $84 in a checking account has a way of making peace with things for you. By the end of the second month, you've made a little over $600. More than a full week at either of your regular jobs, for a fraction of the hours. And you haven't told a single person alive. It happens on a Tuesday, the way it always seems to happen on the most forgettable day of the week. A 10-second clip you posted 3 days earlier gets screenshotted and reposted, without your permission, without your name attached, credited only to a blurred watermark, to a meme aggregator account with 900,000 followers and a joking caption you didn't write and can't take down. By the time you wake up the next morning, your subscriber count has gone from the low double digits to just over 1,400. Your phone won't stop buzzing. You sit on the edge of your bed for a full minute before you can make yourself open the app, half convinced it's a glitch. It isn't a glitch. That week, you make just over $2,000, more than either job pays you in a month, more than both jobs combined pay you in 3 weeks. You do the math 4 separate times because you don't trust the first 3. You give notice at the mall store that same week. You tell your manager you found something else, which isn't a lie exactly. You keep the grocery job a little longer, out of a superstition you can't name. Some instinct that says don't burn every bridge on the strength of one lucky Tuesday. Jess finds out by accident, catching a glimpse of your screen when you forget to flip your phone over on the couch. You brace for her reaction and get something you didn't expect. Not disgust, not lecture, just a long look and a quiet, "How long has this been going on?" She's supportive in the careful way people are supportive of something they're still processing. She's also, unmistakably, a little worried. And you notice that even as you're relieved someone finally knows. You buy a ring light, a real camera, on a payment plan. You build a content calendar like it's a job because you're starting to understand that it is one. The algorithm doesn't reward inspiration, it rewards consistency. And consistency is a business skill, not a personality trait. You open a separate email address just for this. You start signing your messages with a name that isn't the one on your driver's license. It feels, the first time you type it, like trying on a coat that fits a little too well. This is the part nobody warns you about. The money showing up wasn't the hard part. Deciding what to build around it is. You've been dating Marcus for 2 years. He knows you have an online business. Vague enough to be true, vague enough that you've let it stay vague. Every conversation about it lately ends slightly too fast, both of you steering around a subject neither of you names out loud. You sit with a legal pad one Sunday and actually run the numbers. Grocery job, roughly $1,800 a month after taxes, for 40 hours a week of overnight shifts that leave you exhausted for the other 128. The account this month cleared $6,400 for hours you chose yourself. At times you chose yourself. Written down side by side like that, the decision looks obvious. It does not feel obvious. You file for an LLC under your business name, the name that isn't your name. On a Tuesday afternoon at the kitchen table, hands steadier than you expected. You open a separate business bank account. You start thinking of the 2 names as 2 different people. One who clocks in at a grocery store at 11 p.m., and one who doesn't exist anywhere except a login screen and a bank routing number. You put in your 2 weeks at the grocery store on a Thursday. Your manager asks what you're doing next, and you say, "Freelance content work," and it's the first time you've said any version of the truth out loud to someone who isn't Jess, and it comes out easier than you thought it would, because it's not really a lie anymore. It's just not the whole picture. That night you sit alone at the kitchen table and say the business name out loud to the empty apartment, testing how it sounds, the way you'd try on a coat that doesn't quite feel like yours yet, but might eventually become the only coat you own. The message comes in on a Wednesday. A man named Vince, DMing from an account with a blue checkmark and a bio full of $sign emojis offering to triple your income if you sign with his management agency. You've heard of agencies like his. Some legitimate, some not, most somewhere in the murky middle. And you spend 2 weeks asking around in the same anonymous forums that taught you everything else before you agree to a call. He's slick in a way that makes you cautious, and convincing in a way that works anyway. You sign a contract you only half understand for a cut of your earnings that sounds reasonable, stated out loud in a phone call, and looks considerably less reasonable buried in paragraph 14 of a document you'll reread 6 months from now with a different set of eyes. But the machine works, at least at first. You now have an editor, a photographer for your promotional content, and a chatter, someone paid to answer messages in your voice at volumes you could never manage alone. Your first month under management, you clear $41,000. You sit with that number for a long time before you tell anyone, the way you sat with $84 a year and a half ago. Except now, it's disbelief running in the opposite direction. You move out of the apartment with Jess and into your own place. Nicer, quieter, a doorman who doesn't ask questions. You tell your parents you got a marketing and social media job, which is, again, not quite a lie. Your mother tells her book club her daughter works in digital marketing now, in a way that makes your stomach twist a little every time you think about it. For a stretch of months, this feels like the top of something. You're 24, debt-free for the first time in your adult life, with a number in a business account that would have seemed like fiction to the version of you standing behind a grocery register 18 months ago. You don't know yet that a top of something and a peak before something else can look identical from where you're standing. It starts small, the way these things usually do. Your younger sister Emma's friend from college has a subscription, under a fake name of her own, unaware whose account it actually is, and one night, scrolling, she recognizes a birthmark she's seen 100 times at family gatherings. She doesn't mean to be cruel about it. She just can't stop herself from telling Emma. Emma calls you. Not from disgust exactly, more from the vertigo of learning something about you that reorganizes everything else she thought she knew. She tells your parents within the week, not out of malice, out of the particular panic of carrying a secret too heavy to hold alone. The dinner table conversation that follows is one you will remember in exact cruel detail for years. Your father doesn't raise his voice. He just goes quiet in a way that's worse, and says, eventually, that he doesn't understand how you could do this to the family name. The same name you legally still carry, even if your business account doesn't. Your mother doesn't say much of anything. She goes to the kitchen to check on something, and you hear her over the sink for a long time before anyone goes to check on her. Marcus finds out separately, and worse, from a friend who sends him a screenshot with a emoji attached, like it's gossip, instead of your entire secret second life landing on him with no warning at all. The fight that follows is long and circular, and ends eventually not in a breakup, but in something quieter and sadder. Him saying he understands, in a voice that makes clear he doesn't, not really, and something between you that doesn't fully recover even as you both pretend it has. Old friends start acting strange in smaller, colder ways. A group chat that goes quiet when you post in it, an invitation to a wedding that never comes. A childhood friend who unfollows you without a word and never explains why. Nobody says anything to your face. That somehow is worse than if they had. You learn, slowly and expensively, that Vince's cut was never really 20%. Buried in the contract's fine print were platform fees, editing fees, and a marketing allocation that together eat closer to 40. You hire a lawyer for the first time in your life to review what you should have had reviewed a year earlier, and she tells you, not unkindly, that this happens to almost everyone who signs before they know what to look for. Someone figures out where you live. A background detail in one video, a street sign caught for half a second in a window's reflection, is enough for a small, obsessive corner of the internet to work backward to your apartment building. A man shows up outside twice in 1 week. The second time, building security calls you down to identify him on the lobby cameras, and you spend that night not sleeping, staring at your own front door. You install a home security system. You start using a P.O. box and a decoy delivery address. You vary your route home from the gym, a small, paranoid habit you never imagined needing and now can't stop doing. A message arrives from an account you don't recognize, a demand for $3,000, or a folder of your content, obtained you don't know how, gets sent to a Facebook group for your hometown, tagged with your real name. You learn the term for this the hard way, from your lawyer, over the phone, at 11 at night. Sextortion, she says, like a diagnosis. You are absolutely not the first client I've had say this exact sentence to me this year. You don't pay. Your lawyer walks you through reporting it instead, a process that takes weeks and resolves nothing cleanly. The folder never fully contained, just quieter, just further away, never entirely gone. You start sleeping with your phone face down and the ringer off, and you notice, for the first time, how tired you've become of being findable. You apply, quietly, for a part-time job at a local boutique. Nothing to do with any of this, just something normal. Something with a name tag and a schedule, and coworkers who'd have no reason to know your other life. Halfway through the interview, the manager's expression shifts. You watch her place your face and watch her decide, in real time, what that means about you. You don't get a call back. Nobody tells you why. Nobody has to. Your cousin gets married that spring. You skip it and tell your mother it's a scheduling conflict, because the truth, that you can't stop picturing extended relatives recognizing you across a reception hall, is too exhausting to explain out loud. Your mother doesn't push, which somehow makes it worse. Somewhere in this stretch you realize you haven't told a single person you've casually dated your actual last name in over a year. Not out of dishonesty exactly, out of a kind of self-protection that's become so automatic you almost don't notice you're doing it anymore, until one night a date asks a simple question and you realize you have no idea how to answer it without unraveling everything else. The two names that once felt like two different people have fully merged into one exhausted person who answers to both and belongs, some nights, to neither. You catch yourself more than once opening your business banking app just to look at the number. Not to spend it, not even really to check it. Just to remind yourself of the reason you're still doing any of this, the way you'd touch a scar to remember it happened for something. You are, by every financial measure, doing better than you've ever done in your life. You are also, some weeks, harder to reach than you've ever been. Not because anyone's stopped trying, but because you've quietly stopped answering. It comes from a direction you never once considered a risk. The payment processor. A routine compliance review flags your business account as high risk, freezing $61,000, pending an investigation that has no clear timeline and no clear appeals process you can actually reach a human being about. Your lawyer files what she can file. Nothing moves quickly. 90 days, they tell you, at minimum. And 90 days is a generous estimate you'll later learn nobody actually guarantees. Around the same time, a short relationship you had after Marcus ends badly, and the person leaks private messages. Nothing you'd ever posted publicly, just personal conversations, to a gossip account that reposts them to a local subreddit for your hometown. A distant cousin sees it before your parents do this time and calls your mother directly. and the whole conversation you thought you'd survived once already starts over from a worse place. The platform itself changes its recommendation algorithm that same quarter, the way it periodically does, and creators who built their following in the wave you rode 2 years ago watch their reach quietly collapse in favor of newer accounts the algorithm now prefers. Your subscriber count, which took 18 months to build, sheds nearly a third of itself in 6 weeks, for reasons no one at the company will explain to you in anything more specific than a form email. Vince stops returning calls almost exactly when the numbers start dropping. You realize later, with a clarity that would have been useful a year earlier, that he was never actually invested in you. He was invested in a percentage, and once the percentage got smaller, so did his interest in picking up the phone. You sit down one night with the same legal pad you used the night you quit the grocery store and run the numbers the other direction this time. At the current rate, savings included, frozen funds excluded until further notice, you calculate you have roughly 14 months before you're back to doing this math out of necessity instead of curiosity. You sit with that number for a long time. You don't cry. You've cried about smaller things than this year. 2 years after that night with the legal pad, the account still exists, technically. Dormant, unposted to for months, a name that used to be a coat you wore and is now closer to a coat still hanging in a closet you rarely open. The frozen funds eventually released, most of them, after a compliance review that took 5 months instead of 90 days and never once explained itself to your satisfaction. You took what survived and did something almost defiantly boring with it. A down payment, with Jess, on a small storefront that's now a plant shop the two of you run together under both of your real, actual, full legal names, printed on a sign you helped choose the font for. Some months it barely breaks even. You have never once, not on the worst of those months, wished you were back where you started. You go by your real name again, fully, everywhere, for the first time in over 3 years. It takes longer than you'd expect to stop flinching slightly when someone says it in public, like a habit your body hasn't caught up to unlearning yet. Every few months, a message still arrives from an old subscriber account that never migrated to wherever everyone else went, asking, politely and a little sadly, where you disappeared to. You read it. You don't answer. There isn't an answer that would fit in a message box anyway. You think, sometimes, about the version of yourself sitting on a mattress on the floor with $84 in her account and an app she was too embarrassed to finish setting up. You don't know, even now, whether you'd tell her not to. The money was real. Real enough to buy a storefront. Real enough to erase a debt that had followed you since you were 19. So was the cost. Some nights those two facts sit next to each other peacefully. Other nights they don't, and you've stopped expecting them to. If you made it to level 10, you already know there isn't a clean moral at the end of this one. There rarely is, in the stories that are actually true.